Hello guys, it's Robbie here and welcome in this new recap where I'm going to break down today's price action on both on EU and GU. And let's start everything with the EU markup. And actually I have just brought the 15-minute markup about EU, but we know that technically there was a small body break on the 4-hour time frame just below the 4-hour demand area. So technically we could expect shorts to the downside. However, technically price has changed character here to the upside. And after that, price has made new breakout structure to the upside too. So personally, I was expecting longs to the upside because the order flow has changed strongly with a really nice volume candles, as you can see right here. And it was a really tiny body break on the 4-hour time frame just below the 4-hour demand. So at that point I wasn't 100% sure about that. It has broken. It has been really broken or not. But actually I was a little bit on the on that side where I was expecting a break because price has already mitigated more than 95% of the 4-hour demand. So actually I was expecting shorts, but on the 50-minute time frame, technically we could expect longs too. And yeah, once again, there was a really tiny body break on the 4-hour time frame, just below the 4-hour demand. So yeah, I wasn't 100% sure about the shorts or the longs, but because of this really nice volume bullish movement and also because of this really nice volume bullish movement that has caused the 50-minute change of character at this point, I was more on the long side than on the short side. However, on GU you will probably see that technically I was on the long side too, so it's perfectly lined up together. So here we are on EU. What were the expectations? So technically that was the last recent breakout structure. Price also made a breakout structure here, but I was considering this was as liquidity. So technically price has changed character on several places with this bullish movement to the upside, as you can see, and left behind an extreme area where price reacted during London session. Yeah, it happened during London session. Price returned back to this extreme area, built up really nice amount of liquidity for the shorts. So technically the shorts had a chance to play out too. But after this really nice demand mitigation, price has made a new breakout structure to the upside, which technically happened directly from this 15-minute demand area, where I was expecting confirmation entry, even though price has mitigated a supply area beforehand, which was a pretty valid and pretty valuable supply area because it has caused a 15-minute swing breakout structure at that point on the previous swing low point. So yeah, even though price was coming from an opposite sided zone at this point, I was expecting long from this demand area, or I was expecting a flip of this supply area. In order to execute shorts, I would like to see the failure of this 15-minute demand, of this last recent 15-minute demand. And in this case, we could take shorts down to the extreme 15-minute demand area, which was the origin of this whole structure breaking movement. And after the mitigation of this demand area, technically we would be able to look for longs, but it would have a bit less chance to play out because this extreme area was directly part of this liquidity pool, which has been built up just below the extreme 15-minute demand. So also we had a chance to see a flip of this zone, flip of this area, and if a flip of this extreme demand happened, then we would be able to look for sells to the downside. So these were the plan, and as you can see, I did not mark out any supply at this region, but during the session and in a markup, I marked out this candle right here. And I also explained that I wasn't really expecting that to be able to hold the price because technically this supply area couldn't manage to take out the previous low point at this point. So the breakout structure did not happen from the supply area, and technically it was on a weak high point. So I was expecting that supply to be flipped rather than it could give us confirmations. But yeah, I will explain everything on the real trading view. So technically these were the plans for this session, and let's take a look on the real trading view. And as you can see, here is the 15-minute markup on Euro USD. I have played price forward back when the session closed, and as you can see, technically the flip of this supply happened, and after the flip of this supply, price has immediately mitigated this 15-minute supply area, but I was expecting a confirmation entry technically on this 15-minute weak demand area. There was only one downside of this demand area, which was technically it has been made by high impact news. So there was unemployment claims release, and as you can see, price has made a new breakout structure here to the upside, also caused the flip of this 15-minute supply area from this 5-minute or 15-minute weak demand. We could mark both zones out. Both zones were extremely exactly perfect. And beforehand, price has mitigated this 15-minute demand that has caused technically the breakout structure at this point on the 15-minute time frame. As you can see, the breakout structure happened from this demand area, and also this demand has printed volume candles to the upside. And after these volume candles, price reacted on the supply, and the flip of this supply happened technically from this 15-minute weak demand, but I have marked out the 5-minute demand, which was the flip zone in this case. And as you can see, it was a really small percent mitigation on this 15-minute demand, so a 50% mitigation was still expectable. And as you can see, the 50% mitigation happened just before session close. And let's take a look on the 1-minute time frame. But first, let's take a look on the 5-minute time frame. So as you can see, we could not refine this 15-minute demand area at this point, which caused the breakout structure here, but you can identify a 5-minute candle at this point, which has caused technically the flip of this 15-minute supply, also caused the mitigation immediately on this 15-minute higher supply area. But on the 15-minute time frame, it's really clear that technically this zone couldn't do the breakout structure, and technically the breakout structure happened from the supply area, which has been already mitigated right here. So that's the main reason I was expecting a flip on the supply area, because technically it's on a weak high, so which also equals as liquidity right here. So yeah, and I was expecting a reversal from this supply area right here, which was technically a flip area, which has caused a change of character at this point, because there was the last recent breakout structure which happened from this weak demand area, but this weak demand has been broken right here, and technically the whole movement has started from this supply area, and this is the reason I was expecting a reversal from this supply and not from this supply. So yeah, let's take a look on the 1-minute time frame. Actually, the session's price action wasn't the most beautiful one. It was a pretty boring session. And after this supply zone mitigation, as you can see, this was our 1-minute low point. This was our 1-minute high point. Technically for 2 hours, yeah, almost for 2 hours, price was made, and the price was doing substructural movements on the 1-minute time frame. And technically price built up some liquidity at this point, which has been built up for this 1-minute refinement inside of it. And the reason why I marked this 1-minute refinement out, because in this case, this 5-minute demand was a pretty huge zone. So I wanted to refine it on the 1-minute time frame, but I would still wait for confirmation entry on it, because it has been formed with high impact news. There was the high impact news release at this point, but we can call this one as a zone which has been made by news. So that's the reason I wanted to confirm it. And as you can see, technically the confirmation happened here. However, I wasn't 100% convinced with this change of character at this point. There was liquidity to take, so technically there was liquidity. Price mitigated the higher time frame zone area. There was really nice volume candles, so inefficiency was there too. Technically, we were in a pro trend based on the 15-minute time frame. Change of character happened. We had a V-shaped recovery after this 1-minute refinement mitigation, and you can identify a really nice V-shape at this point. So technically V-shaped recovery happened. We had liquidity target on the upside. Technically this was just pure liquidity target, and also we had 50% mitigation. So this is our 8th criteria. Price wasn't coming from any opposite side at this point, so this is our 9th criteria, and the combined liquidation was missing. Also, we technically had corrective pullback, strong pro movement. So technically it was a 10 criteria entry opportunity. However, because this was a news zone, it has been made by news, I approached it a little bit with a bit more cautious, and in this case I wanted to see liquidity creation for the entry POI. Even though there was liquidity for the higher time frame zone, I'm approaching news areas with a bit more cautious. And yeah, that's the reason I did not set a limit order here. I wanted to see liquidity creation at this point, but as you can see, technically price was just struggling at this entry POI. And also there was one more downside of this entry opportunity, which was this low percentage mitigation at this point on the previous 15-minute demand area. So it had a great chance to be a sell trap. And technically, this was the case in this situation. So technically, this whole 5-minute supply, 5-minute demand was a sell buy trap, sorry. And also technically this 1-minute demand was a buy trap in itself, even though it has made 50% mitigation on this zone. And everything that you can see right here was technically built up for a deeper mitigation on the 15-minute demand area that has caused the breakout structure beforehand. And after the 50% mitigation, price has really nicely printed volume candles at this point. The breakout structure happened right here. So technically the change of character has happened with this movement to the upside. This was our structural high point. And in this case, I would say this one has a change of character. And the structural high point has been broken. Price left behind a possible entry PI, which has started the whole inefficiency, whole character changing movement. And as you can see, it would be a break-even trade in this case, with a full zone mitigation and probably a 2, no, with a 3 pip stop loss, we could cover the whole entry POI. Yeah, this was the case. And unfortunately, I had to leave the session at this point because I had to pick up my dad from work. So yeah, somewhere around here, I had to leave the session because I had to pick up my dad. So yeah, but technically this was a valid entry opportunity, probably with 9 or 10 criteria, but let's count it. Technically, it was a higher time frame zone mitigation right here. We had really nice liquidity to take. Technically, this zone could be counted as liquidity take, but also we could count this one as liquidity to take. So liquidity to take was there for the higher time frame period. There were really nice inefficient candles, and we are technically in a pro trend. We have change of character at this point, so this is our 5th criteria. We could count the V-shaped recovery. Let's take a look on the 5-minute time frame. Technically, we can count this one as a V-shaped recovery. If we cannot identify a clear V-shape on the 1-minute time frame, I am going to look the price action on the 5-minute time frame, and if there is a clear V-shaped recovery, I still count the V-shaped recovery. And even though there was a little bit struggle inside of that, after the 50% mitigation, price V-shapeably with a really nice volume candles reacted after the 50% mitigation. So technically we can count this one as a V-shaped recovery. Also, we had 50% mitigation based on this 15-minute structure breaking demand. Perfect price wasn't coming from any opposite sided zone at this point, I believe, but let me take a look. No, price wasn't coming from any opposite sided zone. There wasn't any inefficiency in this whole movement, not even on the 15-minute time frame. So price wasn't coming from any opposite sided zone, which is our 8th criteria. We had really nice liquidity target on the upside, which is our 9th criteria. And in this case, we could count the corrective pullback strong pro movement too, because if you take a look at this movement, at this whole movement since the morning, since London session, technically the bullish movements were stronger than the bearish ones, but it's not that clear. That's true, but technically we could count this one as a 10th criteria, but 9 criteria would be still enough in order to set a limit order on this entry POI right here. and there was a clearly missing criteria, which is the combined liquidation. So technically it was a 9/10 criteria entry opportunity on Euro USD. I believe some of you has taken it, and it's a perfectly valid long opportunity. I would have taken it too, but yeah, I had to leave the session unfortunately, and it happens sometimes. So that's all on EU, and let me start a new recording with GU.